said, not just to ministry gifts, he said to all disciples, when you go and preach, heal all their sick. That the blood of Jesus has remitted my sins. We're living in the final hour of the last days. You don't have to finish how you started, and you don't have to end up where you are right now.
I would turn on the 24-hour broadcast and just stick it under my pillow at night. It was screaming faith and building faith in me.
Downloaded his app, Revival Today app, and I watched that whole week and learned more in that week than I had from anybody else in a long time. It touched me, and this ministry has changed our life.
I turned on Daystar on my husband's day off, and we're watching, and Jonathan came on. And when he came on, it ignited my spirit and my faith.
That's why I'm setting my faith that these next 5 years, the fire of God will burn through this nation. From Boston, Massachusetts to Maui, Hawaii, from Wasilla, Alaska, down to Laredo, Texas. The devil's not going to have this generation. America shall be saved by the power of God. If you stand with me on that, give Jesus a hand clap. Let the devil know that he has some opposition.
Completely crippled.
4 surgeries, trying to heal a detached retina.
I can't eat. 4 years of this pain and throwing up.
In 2017, we had found out he had a tumor.
They wanted to do an operation because I had 90% block or 80% blockage in my heart, and I didn't want them to do it because they tried killing me the first time they tried doing that, putting in a stent.
I was born with muscular dystrophy, a rare form. There's 43 different forms, and mitochondrial disease, which is a genetic defect in every cell of your body.
But that man has not had a breath without assistance in over a decade.
Blood disease, liver disease, kidney disease, any disease, they brought unto him all the sick. And no matter what their sickness or what their disease, he healed them all.
He left here, took the oxygen off of his nose.
I looked at her and said, I can see all those holes.
Air test, and they said your respiratory function is above anything that we can imagine.
It was the last day that I used a walker.
Yes, I just believed it, and it happened. Just his words were so powerful. It just moved me.
When you touched me, it felt like when they gave me the injection with the stuff to go through to see what the arteries would block. It just all ran through, just hot as it could be.
And he saw that the tumor was gone. Completely gone, there's nothing there. The tumor looks like it's healed. The bone looks completely healed, like nothing was even there. There was no surgery that ever happened or anything on that bone.
You've already won the victory. Hallelujah. Shout it out. I've already won.
Brother Jonathan, Sister Evangelist, this is Stephan from Feed the Hungry reporting to you in Nicaragua. To everyone who's part of Revival Today, I want to say thank you for answering the prayers of hungry people all around the world throughout this year. Because of you, the ministry of Feed the Hungry this year has just expanded to reach so many more hungry people around the world. We've seen about a 40% increase in our ministry activity. Because of you, millions are able to look up to heaven each and every day and thank God for food in their bellies and for food for their children. I'm in Nicaragua this week, and one particularly heartwarming story was a woman we met who is in a little village. She's part of the feeding, her kids are part of the feeding program, and in speaking with her, asked, what does this food mean to you? And she said, you can never understand what this food means to my children and me. And I thought about that for a minute, and it's so true. We have no capacity to identify that kind of desperation and hunger. She said, it used to be when I would put my children to sleep, they're crying, I'm a single mother, I put them to bed knowing that they would have nothing to eat the next day. And I just put them to bed on an empty stomach. And their stomach is painful and they're crying because of it. She said, when the feeding center started and I saw the food there day after day, it gave me and it gave us hope. Thank you for giving hope to mothers, to to children, to people in great need around the world. We've responded this year to the Ukraine war conflict with over 20 million pounds of food going into that region, into the hands of churches to give out daily bread to those that are praying for something to eat that day. We've responded in the United States with hurricane relief down in Florida, and right now, well over 425,000 children get to look up to heaven and taste and see that the Lord is good because of you.
Coming to you from Main Street America, in the heart of Rust Country, home of industrial titans like Carnegie and the Mellons, we are bringing you market analysis, news, and everything you need to know about the economy and investing. Live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it's Check the Market.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Check the Market. Got another beautiful day here in Pittsburgh, live from our studio, D&D Investments, from Portland, Oregon, Wayne in Buenos Aires, David right here in Pittsburgh, McLeod from Eastern Oregon, Jason, good morning, Sandra, Isaac, Charles, also from Pittsburgh, welcome. Welcome to Check the Market. We're going to be talking about investing with AI today. Got some interesting developments in that arena that makes it more accessible for everybody, and so I'll be going over that today. We'll be talking about that. Lowe's, last week we talked about Home Depot. Lowe's this week had their earnings and they cut their full year sales forecast. Looks like spending, just like with Home Depot, has gone down for Lowe's when it comes to housing and different projects with housing. So we'll see. We'll take a look at how that's going to affect the market. The Dow futures are down a little bit right now, about 0.3% on all indices. Oil is up. Treasuries are up. Let's see here. What else we got? Gold down slightly, silver down slightly. So all we have is oil that's up right now. So that's the market. Down a little bit. Let's take a look at some cryptocurrencies here. Bitcoin up, Ethereum up, BNB is up. XRP 46 cents. So we'll take a look at that when the market's open. All right, let's get into it. Let's take a look and see what's happening in the markets. Well, okay, that was a powerful statement by Elon Musk. Very impressed because he was committed to his words. This was something, interview that happened last week. Let's take a look at it.
But how do you make a choice? You don't see, I mean, in terms of when you're going to engage. I mean, for example, even today, Elon, you tweeted this thing about George Soros. Well, I'm looking for it because I want to make sure I quote it properly. But, I mean, you know what you wrote, but you basically...
I said it reminds me of Magneto. It's just like, calm down, people. This is not like made a case out of it.
You also, you said he wants to erode the very fabric of civilization, and Soros hates humanity. Like, when you do something like that, do you
I think that's true. That's my opinion.
Okay, but why share it? Why share it? Especially, why share it when people who buy Teslas may not agree with you, advertisers on Twitter may not agree with you? Why not just say, hey, I think this. You can tell me, we can talk about it over there, you can tell your friends, but why share it widely?
I mean, this is freedom of speech. I'm allowed to say what I want.
You absolutely are, but I'm trying to understand why you do, because you have to know it's got it puts you in the middle of the partisan divide in the country. It makes you a lightning rod for criticism. I mean, do you like that? People today saying he's an anti-Semite. I don't think you are.
No, I'm definitely. I'm like a pro-Semite, if anything.
I believe that probably is the case.
Yes.
But why would you even introduce the idea then that would be the case?
I mean, we don't want to make this a George Soros interview.
No, God, no. I don't want to at all. But what I'm trying. Even came up though in the annual meeting. I mean, do your tweets hurt the company? Are there Tesla owners who say, I don't agree with his political position and I know it because he shares so much of it? Or are there advertisers on Twitter that Linda Yaccarino will come and say, you got to stop, man. Or, I can't get these ads because of some of the things you tweet.
I'm reminded of the scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father. And he says, offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care. You want to share what you have to say.
I'll say what I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, so be it.
Okay.
That was great. I loved it. I loved how he had that moment of just dead air where he didn't say anything because networks hate that stuff. And so he just went for it. And I loved every minute of that interview. He did a great job with that, just to let them know where he stands. All right, next. Apple has restricted use of ChatGPT and other external AI tools among employees as the company seeks to develop its own similar technology and joins other firms in being wary of leaks, according to the Wall Street Journal. So this right here is something that we talked about last week. And then this was tweeted on May 18th, a couple of days after we had our show, that the company is seeking to develop its own technology. And what they don't want happening is with ChatGPT, you have to enter in data for it to give you a response. And if Apple enters in proprietary data into the system, that could be a cause for leak. If somebody hacks ChatGPT, then there could be a leak because of that. And so a leak of Apple's confidential data. And so Apple has restricted the use of ChatGPT so that ChatGPT doesn't have access to their proprietary data. Continue. Lowe's cuts full year sales forecast as spending on do-it-yourself projects weaken. So it was the same like with Home Depot last week, which just shows that the economy is slowing down a little bit, which should bring inflation into check, but inflation has a lot more to do with energy. So my solution to the whole thing is to break down barriers of entry, to take down some of the environmental protection things that they have, and I think that'll make projects way cheaper and way quicker to build, and it'll be easier. Continue. So they had earnings per share, $3.67 versus $3.44 expected. Revenue, they still beat, but it was their forecast. Full year sales forecast went down, and so it's the same like with Home Depot. Continue. Next. Next article. Is there one where we have a video, the one that we have a video from CNBC about AI? Let's play that one first. Yes, AI tools could spark another roaring 20s for the stock market, says Ed Yardeni. Let's see the video.
Now is Ed Yardeni, president of Yardeni Research, who says AI could be the thing that kicks off the Roaring 20s. Stephanie Link also feels there could be a lot of industries that benefit, and welcome to both of you. Ed, I'll just start with you. You say Roaring 20s. I say, hard landing. And markets are voting with you right now, I think.
Oh, I say potato, you say potato?
Yeah.
Look, I think that the 1920s is maybe a good model for what could happen during the 2020s. The 1920s started out a couple of years before that with a global pandemic, the Spanish flu that killed millions of people. And then we had a depression in the United States in 1920. So things must have felt absolutely horrible at the beginning of the decade, and yet it turned out to be the roaring 1920s because of all the technological innovations. I think that a lot of the technologies we have now are kind of coming together: robotics, automation, nanotechnologies, and I think AI is sort of the glue that puts all these things together into a technology that increases the productivity of the brain. Technologies in the past increased the brawn of productivity, lifting things, whereas this is going to supplement our ability to just think faster and come up with ideas faster and solutions faster.
Stephanie, how do you react to that? I mean, is the potential of AI so vast across so many industries that it could be a real productivity and prosperity lifter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the real deal, right? The total addressable market for AI is going to be something like 2 to 3 trillion by the end of this decade. And annual growth on a compound annual rate is about 37.3% per year. And only 25% of the companies in the United States actually use AI in any way. And we've been hearing from companies all across every different sector talk about AI. I mean, I was just going through some of my industrial companies and how they talked about on the conference calls a lot of different kinds of AI, right? I mean, Ingersoll Rand and Rockwell Automation and Emerson Electric. But then I'm also looking at some of the hospitals and looking at smart healthcare. That could actually be a $200 billion total addressable market. Think of like processing, right, and data records and that sort of thing. And then, of course, there's also robotics, as Ed mentioned. That's a really big part in like the industrial side, agriculture and that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of areas, a lot of sectors that are going to win. I think this year it has been interesting that it's been really focused on the technology companies. Almost everybody else is getting ignored. But I think over time, we will recognize that this is definitely a productivity enhancer. You need stronger compute power, more storage, and faster networking. And that's going to benefit many different industries.
Steph, I think
We can stop
trying to think through the AI and the sort of macro, the business cycle at the same time. You might say, okay, AI is certainly taking the sting out of what would have otherwise been.
So AI taking over, everybody's talking about it. The majority of CEOs in their earnings calls are talking about it. So how is this going to affect investing? And that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to take a look at all of that. I got some more articles. Let's take a look at those. Bill Gates says AI could kill Google search and Amazon as we know them. Continue. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates believes the future top company in artificial intelligence will likely have created a personal digital agent that can perform certain tasks for people. Also something that we talked about last week with Apple. And is Apple going to be that company that creates that assistant? The technology will be so profound it could radically alter user behaviors. Whoever wins the personal agent, that's the big thing, because you'll never go to a search site again. You'll never go to a productivity site. You'll never go to Amazon again. This yet to be developed AI assistant will be able to understand a person's needs and habits and will help them read the stuff you don't have time to read. So you can say, read this book or read that book and give me sort of like an overview, like the Spark Notes version of it. This yet to be developed AI assistant will be able to understand a person's needs and habits. I already read that. Gates says there's a 50-50 chance that this future AI winner will be either a startup or a tech giant. I'd be disappointed if Microsoft didn't come in there, but I'm impressed with a couple of startups, including Inflection, he added, referring to Inflection.ai, co-founded by former DeepMind executive Mustafa Suleyman. So these are some of the things that AI is getting into that are, I mean, it's incredible. I've been researching this a lot, looking into it a lot. It almost came out of nowhere because there was, I read about it last year a little bit. There's these trading algorithms that used AI that were getting better, etc. But this, all of a sudden this year, it just exploded and came out of nowhere. It'll take some time until this powerful future digital agent is ready for mainstream use. Until then, companies will continue embedding so-called generative AI technologies akin to OpenAI's popular ChatGPT into their own products. Gates also discussed health efforts related to his work. All right, continue. We can go to the next one. So before we get into some of the risks of artificial intelligence and before we get into the investing part of it, I was doing some research on the artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, etc., and a lot of it is predictive analysis. So instead of, right now everybody's saying, oh, everybody's going to lose their jobs, basically. I don't think that's the case, because what AI is going to do is it's going to help with predictive analysis. So there's some doctors in the medical field that won't be needed as much anymore because a lot of them do diagnosing, and what they would do is they would just enter the data into AI, and then AI would diagnose the person. So that's one aspect where AI could be used in medicine and where it's already being used in medicine to run diagnoses. But there's always going to be need for humans. So you can't, because you won't be able to enter every single data point into AI for it to give you a specific reason. Like, for example, I know WebMD isn't AI, but I have a headache or something, and I enter in the symptoms check on WebMD, headache, and the first thing that comes up is brain cancer. Which obviously it's just a headache. But things like that. So AI is always going to need human input because there's things that'll be passed up where there can be misdiagnoses. So if you don't enter in all the data correctly, then it can misdiagnose. So there's still a lot of work that's needed with AI moving forward before this thing is fully developed. So a lot of people, I've been writing articles and fear-mongering about it, that there's going to be some sort of massive job loss, but I don't think that there's going to, all of a sudden AI is here and millions of people are going to lose their job. It'll be over a long period of time, just like it has been with technology all along. When, electricity was invented, when the steam engine was invented, there was always a transition phase of a couple of years, and then people, they just retrained and entered into some other field, or they used the opportunity to create something with it. So Sandra says there's good and bad in all inventions, technology, and that's true. There is an AI, David says there may be an AI buying panic, and I believe there already is, because people don't want to miss out on it. So they're buying every company that has something to do with AI. But I think that as this technology progresses, there's going to be companies and startups that are going to be worth a lot of money that we don't even know about right now, that create something with AI that's going to be useful in the future. Wayne says Micro was talking about AI the other day. He said he doesn't see many AI plumbers or electricians, and that is true. You won't be able to do the trades. That's another thing. The trades, plumbers, electricians, everybody's safe. But there was also a which I don't know if this is in this article or not, but in one of the articles that I read this morning, they were saying how if you cut out the entry-level employee because of AI, you won't be able to train anybody into a middle-level employee, and then a high-level employee, and then executive, etc. So if you use AI to get rid of all of those jobs, your company is going to suffer in the long run. So there's consequences to all of that, and if companies just go with the fray and jump into some sort of, AI frenzy and fire a whole bunch of employees, I don't think those companies are going to do well in the future. Continue. So next financial crisis could come from AI. SEC chair says, one of our favorite people, Gary Gensler, sounded a cautious note on the technology. That was sarcastic, by the way. That joined skepticism from other U.S. officials. Continue. The next financial crisis could emerge from firms' use of artificial intelligence. Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler said, warning of the potential systemic risk posed by the technology's proliferation. Data aggressors and AI platforms could be a major component of future financial system fragility, Mr. Gensler said Tuesday at a conference in Washington hosted by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, Wall Street's self-regulatory body. My goodness. Observers years from now might look back and say the crisis in 2027 was because everything was relying on one base level, what's called the generative AI level, and a bunch of fintech apps are built on top of it, Mr. Gensler said. Generative AI systems such as popular ChatGPT tool can create sophisticated outputs of text, images, and sound. Continue. Like Mr. Gensler, many government officials have taken a skeptical posture toward AI. Probably afraid that their jobs are on the line too. Even as a host of businesses across the economy have embraced the technology for its promise of enabling more work to be done with fewer workers. Banks and other financial institutions have employed AI in a variety of functions, including for the normally laborious compliance work involved in sizing up a new customer or checking for suspicious transactions. So that's one area where AI can be useful. There's going to have to be a good data set. So what they would do is, instead of back in the day when somebody walks into a bank, they would look at the person, they would get to know the person, and they would decide whether or not, based on how many businesses, what kind of a house, what kind of jewelry, whatever they own, whether or not they were going to give them a loan. And then it transformed into more of like a credit check, but a person was still doing that. And now what they do is they use AI to take a look at the probability of that person taking out a loan, whether or not they're going to pay back the loan. And so that's one area where AI is being deployed by banks. And checking for suspicious transactions. So that's already something that computers were doing, but with AI, there's more of a predictive analysis. What potential transaction, what transactions could potentially be suspicious. But despite the possible efficiency gains, the system could be closely scrutinized, Mr. Gensler said. Continue. You don't have to understand the math, but you have to understand really how the risk management is managed, he said, highlighting the potential for biased decisions. Though many AI proponents argue that the systems can be designed free of the unconscious biases in human beings, which I haven't seen that, U.S. regulators have repeatedly highlighted the potential for AI to inadvertently scale up the biases that could lurk in their designers or in the data such systems were trained on. Law enforcement agencies last month said they would tackle AI discrimination and bias in areas such as lending, housing, and hiring. Some smaller jurisdictions have also taken steps to rein in the technology. Sam Altman, the chief executive of ChatGPT creator OpenAI, on Tuesday called on Congress to create licensing and safety standards for advanced AI as lawmakers begin a bipartisan regulatory push. Continue. Jason says, I'm an electrician. We're using AI bots to etch layouts on the floor for rough-in/core drill. It's deadly accurate and fantastic. That's another area where it can be used to make sure that there's not that many mistakes. Continue. Generative AI pilots have companies reaching for the guardrails. As JP Morgan Chase and others seek out a safe way to experiment with OpenAI's ChatGPT and other advanced AI tools, vendors like NVIDIA offer protection against the tech's potential downsides. Continue. Hoping to take advantage of artificial intelligence technologies like ChatGPT, but without all of its risks, businesses are turning to in-house solutions and a growing ecosystem of vendors that aim to protect sensitive company data that could be fed into new AI tools. So that's one of the biggest risks, is you feeding information, you feeding all your data into this AI system, and then they have access to all that data. So if that AI system, whatever, is hacked, people can have access to a lot of companies' data that is supposed to be sensitive and secret. Generative AI has the potential to completely upend office work, holding the promise of doing everything from helping developers write code, search and extract insight from email and other business documents, and engage with customers. But for corporate technology leaders, the urgent need is to weigh those tremendous capabilities against the technology's downsides. The potential to expose proprietary data to competitors, disclosing customer information like email addresses, and opening up new avenues for cyber attacks. Continue. Apple is the latest among a string of companies to ban some of its employees from using the publicly available version of ChatGPT, citing concerns that workers who use the technologies could release confidential data. Similar mandates come from companies such as JP Morgan and Verizon. The corporate restrictions will also follow Tuesday's congressional testimony from Sam Altman. Continue. For some companies, the risk of inputting data like its source code or even sales figures and meeting notes into a chatbot is that it could learn from such proprietary information and retain or share it outside of the company or with employees who shouldn't have access. Now this, I'm not 100% opposed to, because you could tell which companies then, if all of this data is entered into artificial intelligence can then decide which companies are worth investing in, and they will have basically it's insider trading for artificial intelligence. But they would be able to see sales data before they're even released to the public and then tell you whether or not you should invest in said company, or whether a company is going to spike because of its earnings, which would be great, but there's probably going to be some sort of law that is written against that. Continue. The default reaction right now is just banning or blocking the use of ChatGPT, but in most cases, it's really been this bottoms-up motion where folks across the organization are saying, wow, I don't have to write as much code anymore, I don't have to write memos. Vendors like Calypso AI are part of a growing ecosystem of startups built around helping companies more quickly make use of generative AI, but with assurances that corporate guardrails are intact and malicious or toxic content is blocked. Other startups have aimed to help companies summarize legal research and write doctor's notes and marketing material. Analysts at research firm PitchBook predict future venture investment in generative AI firms this year will be several times last year's $4.5 billion. Continue. JP Morgan Chase, which in February began restricting employees from using ChatGPT, is testing ChatGPT and OpenAI's technologies in a limited environment, said Sage Lee, the bank's executive director of global technology, AI, and machine learning. Continue. We can go to the next one. Oh, here we go. Kramer, the best way to avoid crushing student loan debt. Students who graduate with no debt end up being worth more than classmates with outstanding loans. Yes, just basic accounting, basic financials there. So I'm glad that Jim said that. Brilliant insight. Continue. Apple readies launch of $3,000 headset. Will it succeed where others have failed? So this is something we talked about last week as well, the VR headset that Apple is getting ready to launch. Apparently it's going to be around $3,000 for this VR headset, which is expensive for a headset. Continue. Apple's annual WWDC Developers Conference is fast approaching, and this one promises to be a bit more eventful than most, as the consumer electronics giant is expected to debut its long-awaited mixed reality headset. The company hasn't made a major product introduction since it rolled out the Apple Watch in 2015, but with an expensive headset supporting augmented and virtual reality, Apple will be entering into a market that so far has failed to catch on in mainstream way. Meta Platforms has bet big on virtual reality with its Oculus headset with only limited traction. Apple has a history, though, of turning technology categories into trends, and a team of Goldman Sachs analysts says the company might be able to work its magic again with the Reality Pro headset. Although we recognize that the augmented/virtual reality industry as a whole has generally been disappointing, we believe that Apple's potential AR/VR headset can succeed where others may have not, given Apple's points of differentiation relative to competing headset manufacturers. Continue. One advantage for Apple is that it has an installed base of more than 1.1 billion active iPhone users who are potential consumers for the new headset. So looks like it's going to be around $3,000. We'll see once it comes out at their annual conference. When's that? August or September? Usually somewhere around there, I believe. Oh, June? Cool. June, July, August, September, somewhere in that time frame. Continue. All right, we can go to the next one. Oh, June 5th, right there. Boom, said it. Microsoft and Google PTs raised at Jefferies following AI deep dive. Let's see it. Jefferies analysts raised the price targets on Microsoft to $400 from $350 and Alphabet to $150 from $130 in a note on Tuesday, following an AI deep dive. So those two companies are obviously working on AI, and they just got their price targets increased by Jefferies, which is a large financial firm. There is still intense competition among a very long list of LLMs. They all need a massive infrastructure of compute and storage to train, fine-tune, and run their models. The cost of such infrastructure can easily run into millions of dollars. You're right, Heath. Heath says for $3,000, just go and have a true reality challenge in your memory. I agree. Go on vacation. Go see someplace new instead of sitting on the couch and living a fake reality. Jefferies believes this favors enablers and AI arms dealers such as Microsoft and Google. All right, continue. What else do I have? Will AI robots replace overpaid fund managers? So this is a good question. I came across this on my Twitter, what's that called? For You page on Twitter? What's that? Yeah, like recommended, whatever. And I thought this was interesting because, again, what fund managers do is they just take data, analyze it, and then invest your money based on that data. But if there's something that can analyze the data much quicker than a human can, then it would make sense that overpaid fund managers would no longer or would have a threat to their jobs. Continue. Over the coming decade, artificial intelligence will transform our lives for better or for worse. Mark my words. Its impact will be on a par with the invention of the light bulb, the combustion engine, the personal computer, and more recently, the internet, the iPhone. And when all of those things came out, there was people, oh, we're going to lose our jobs, we won't, all of this stuff. But yeah, and then we adapted, there was more opportunities, and people didn't end up losing their jobs. Speak to some economists, and they argue AI will be a resounding force for good. It will supercharge economic growth on the back of massive productivity gains as business processes are streamlined and many jobs and tasks currently done by humans are carried out by all signing, all dancing AI tools. I don't think that's going to be the case because there still has to be human input. So I don't think that this is going to be one of those every company just has one giant robot that does everything. Because there'll be times where it'll be wrong. And especially if you look way down into the future, there's only, as an entrepreneur, there's only, the AI doesn't have the drive that humans do. And it doesn't have the touch that humans do. Just like, an autopilot can land a plane, and they are very significant, but there are those 3, 4, 5% of times where a pilot still has to take over from the autopilot because a pilot just has that human touch. Others argue that AI is the equivalent of aggressive knotweed and should be curbed before it gets out of control, endangering democracy through misinformation, representation, and misuse. I don't know about that. Continue. Whatever your personal view, and it's currently a hot topic for debate in my local pub, AI is here to stay, and its role in society will only grow as it becomes more sophisticated and intelligent, moving on from providing detailed answers to questions asked by people using search engines to its widespread use in key areas of our lives such as work and healthcare. Yes, ChatGPT and Bard, AI chatbots developed by Microsoft and Google, respectively to mimic human conversations online, are just the beginning. You ain't seen nothing yet. All aspects of our lives are going to be touched by AI, including the way we go about building long-term wealth. Continue. Will AI influence the investments we hold? I think AI already influences. If you're invested in anything, even the website that you use to research a stock is driven by AI, because on the side, most likely it'll give you recommendations whether or not to buy that stock. And that's based on data that AI that then goes into some artificial intelligence that decides whether or not the stock is worth investing in. But there's still that human touch, because sometimes the AI has been wrong. And there's still that human touch that's needed for investment decisions, especially when it comes to long-term thinking. Wayne says, I can still outrate AI writing programs. I actually had one get kind of snarky with me. It was hilarious. I've done the same thing. I've argued with it. It's still not at the level where it needs to be. All funds, AI funds, managed funds could, and it is a big could, offer investors the equivalent of investment elixir. That is, investment returns consistently better than what an index tracker can deliver, and maybe, a big maybe, performance superior to what the best active fund managers with years of experience behind them sweat from their carefully crafted portfolios. So is AI going to be able to do something in the investment world? I think that is very much possible. Continue. How a robot portfolio fared in a test. Let's actually go to that since we're already at 9:57. Let's go to the tweets that I was sending. So this is something that I found 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so I put it to the test. 2 weeks ago. Last week we set ChatGPT up with a real 50K portfolio. This week we meet with AI experts, including the creator of a ChatGPT algorithm that returned 400%. On Monday, ChatGPT will begin trading that 50K portfolio based on the learnings that we found. Here's how to follow along. So this is one thing that I got, and which is, my stock tip of the day there. Make sure you do your own research on this before you invest in it. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying this is something to research. Continue. ChatGPT can pick stocks better than the top fund managers, CNN says. So we gave it a $50,000 of our own money to manage and are sharing the results here. So this is something where I got the app. It's called Autopilot. The app is called Autopilot. And you can download it, and there's actually different funds that you can follow. It's very interesting. There's the Buffett tracker, which has a 12% yearly average, Ackman tracker, Burry, Dalio, Citadel. So you can trade in real time with a lot of these, and it has the ChatGPT portfolio there. Pelosi tracker, Inverse Kramer. So it has a whole bunch of different things that you can, a whole bunch of different what they call pilots that you can follow and invest in. And you can connect it to Robinhood or TD Ameritrade. So if you have any of those two, you can connect it to that. I did the same thing, and I'm following along with this ChatGPT fund. I'm down a little bit because I started a little late on it, but they are up I believe over 1.4% in just a little bit over a week. So that's not too bad. But they said that it did outperform the algorithm that they're based on what they're going, outperformed by 400%, which is incredible. Continue. So there you have it. The first week of GPT managing our 50K is officially in the books. Picked some winners, etc. So they're up 1.4%, $683, which isn't too bad for 1 week if you can do that every single week. Continue. And they have the audacity to give you a credit score. The US national debt's at $31 trillion. Continue. That's it? Are you sure? Okay. So that's what you can do. So it's called Autopilot, and it's the GPT portfolio. You can follow them on Twitter, GPT portfolio. I also use ChatGPT myself to input some things, and it tells you I only have data since 2021, etc., things like that. But I input some data into it, and so far I'm up about 10%. So it is interesting over the last 2 weeks to see how all of this is progressing and what's happening with it, and I'll keep you updated on all of that, see how I do, whether or not I outperform with GPT this year, or whether I'll outperform doing some stock picks myself. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in that space, whether or not AI is going to take over. So you can take a look at that today. That's my tip of the day for everybody when it comes to artificial intelligence. And do we have, I think I sent one more article. If not, we'll just save it for next week. It's not a big deal. All right, well, if you'd like to invest in Revival today, we'll give you the opportunity to do that now. Here are the ways that you can do that. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Facebook, text to give. You can also send a check to P.O. Box 7, Prosperity, Pennsylvania, 15329. And then we gave away the stock market book last week, right? For any of you that are new to investing, this is one of the foundational books, and we'll send that as a thank you for investing in Revival today. Awesome. Well, that's it for today's show. We'll be back with you again next week. Make sure that you share the broadcast for anybody who's interested in investing with AI. There's more ways that you can do that. I'll go over some of those in future broadcasts with some of TD Ameritrade, Schwab, etc., that are able to, where you're already able to invest with AI, and there's different portfolios that you can invest in. And so I'll go over a couple of those, but I'll see you again next week. Go out there and make some money. It looks like the stock market is down just slightly. It recovered from where it was a little bit, and cryptocurrencies are still up over the last 24 hours. So I'll see you all next week. Have a great day, and see ya.